All right, let's take a look at the graph of a function. And now that we've introduced this Cartesian coordinate system, we're ready to kind of sketch a graph in this two-dimensional picture, right? The graph allows us to see the behavior, the properties, right? And the graph is just showing all points whose coordinates satisfy that relationship. That's what a graph is. So what we'll do is we'll create a table of ordered pairs, and then we'll plot each pair, and then we'll join the points with a smooth curve, and that's how we're going to create it by point plotting. First, let's do it with linear functions. So linear functions are anything of this form, y or f of x equals ax plus b. A lot of the time you'll see mx plus b, where the a and the b are constants, or in this case I call it m. Those two I have numbers right there. And it's called linear because it's a straight line. So we will graph these by point plotting. So number one, what we'll do is we'll plot an XY table. And we'll throw some X values in. And here's some good ones. Just pick any old X values you want, because this is a straight line. And let's plug in -2 first. So I got Y or f of x. Let's do this with, well, let me write it this way. F of x is -2x plus 3. I'm finding f of -2. In other words, I'm finding the y value when x is -2. So I got 4 plus 3, which is 7. F of -2 is 7. In other words, when x is -2, y is 7. Now let's do it for -1. F of -1 is -2 times -1 plus 3. 2 plus 3 is 5. F of -1 is 5, so when x is -1, y is 5. -1 comma 5, and I put it on my table there. And then I go ahead and do it for 0, 1, and 2. Let me erase these so I have a little room here. Now let's do it for x being 0. F of x, -2x plus 3. F of 0 would be 0 plus 3. Or 3, so when x is 0, y, f of x, y ends up being 3, 0 comma 3. Plug the 1 in. -2 plus 3 ends up being 1. So we have 1 comma 1. And finally plug 2 in. You got -2 times 2 plus 3. So I got -4 plus 3 is -1. So f of 2, when x is 2, y is -1. And then we'll just graph those points. So we got -2 comma 7, -1 comma 5, 0 comma 3, 1 comma 1, right, 1 up 1, 2 comma -1, right, 2 down 1. And then I didn't do that very well, but that's supposed to be straight. So that's how you plot points for a line. And then let me show you, after you've done that by hand, you can go ahead and check that with your Desmos graph, desmos.com, and you can go ahead and click on the graphing calculator right there. And then you can plug it in, f of x or y. You can plug in y equals as well, -2x plus 3. You can see that line right there. In fact, if you want to check points, what you do is you go up here to this little settings thing, hit the edit list, and then I click on that and then see the little create table. And you can punch some points in. So -2, notice it's already got -1, 0, 1, and 2, but you could add some more. 3 if you plug 3 in, 4 if you plug 4 in. And you see how it gives you those points? There's our -2, 7. -1, 5, and so on. I can click on the graph and it shows me those points I just plugged in. Okay. All right, let's do the next one. Let's graph 3x plus 2 by point plotting, another linear line here. F of x equals 3x plus 2. I'm going to point plot. Again, you can plug in a few points. I like to pick -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. So let's plug in -2. 3 times -2 plus 2. I got -6 plus 2, or -4. When x is -2, y ends up being -4. Now let's find f of -1. Got -3 plus 2, or -1. Let's find f of 0. 0 plus 2 is 2. F of 1. 3 times 1 plus 2. 3 plus 2 is 5. And finally f of 2. 3 times 2 plus 2. 6 plus 2 is 8. There's my points. Now I'm going to plot those points on my graph. I'm going to check it with decimals. -2, -4. Here's my first one. -1, -1. 0, 2. 1, 5. And 2, 8. And then I draw that line. And again, we can check that with decimals by just plugging in y equals 3x plus 2. Clear this out. Y equals 3x plus 2. There it is. If you wanted to plot some points, you could do that as well. Click that and that. Plug some points in, -2, and so on for x. Let's plug some more in. Anyways, you can see all your points here. There's the first one. Oops. Why is that not giving me the points here? There's that one. Anyways. Alright, let's keep going here. Let's get into quadratics now. So a little overview of quadratics. Quadratic functions are parabolas. So they're kind of U-shaped. And they're in this form. F of x equals, so y, or f of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c. You've got numbers here for a, b, and c. But the middle of the parabola, like let's say my parabola is over here. The middle of it is what's called the axis of symmetry. And right there at the bottom of the U-shaped is called my vertex. So the dotted line is the middle of it. That's called the axis of symmetry. And the vertex lies on the axis of symmetry. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and do this first one here. -x squared minus 4x plus 1. By first finding the vertex, using the axis of symmetry, and then point plotting. Because what you want to do is you want to use that x value first. You want to find the middle of it. And then go on both sides. Okay, so let me erase this. Alright, so here's my function. F of x equals -x squared minus 4x plus 1. Let me write the standard form of this. Ax squared plus bx plus c. Notice my a is -1, my b is -4, and my c is 1. So the axis of symmetry, number one, find the axis of symmetry, the middle of the graph, is x equals -b over 2a. Well, my b, b is -4, a is -1. So this ends up being x equals +4 over -2. Well, 4 over -2 is -2. So the middle of my graph is x is -2. Now, right now, I don't know if it looks like this, or maybe it's flipped over like that, or maybe it's over here like that. Anyways, I don't know exactly what it looks like right now. I just know that's the middle of my graph. And so I'm going to use that to find number 2, to find where my vertex is. So my vertex lies on the axis of symmetry. So it's -2. So I'm going to go I'm going to pick variables to the left, or x values to the left of -2, like -3 and -4. And I'm going to pick x values to the right of -2, which would be -1 and 0. And I'm going to plug those in one by one. But my vertex is right there when x is -2. That's what my vertex is. So let's find out what y is if x is -2. Well, here's my equation. Y equals -x squared minus 4x plus 1. If x is -2, -2 squared is 4. -4 plus 8 is 4 plus 1 is 5. So -2 comma 5. There's my vertex. Now if I plug in -3, let me get a little room here. So I want to plug these x values in one by one. I go to the left of -2, so -3, -4. Go to the right and so on. So here's f of x, -x squared minus 4x plus 1. If I plug in -3, -3 squared is 9. -9 plus 12 is 3 plus 1 is 4. So I got -3 comma 4 right there. Let's plug the 5 in. So I'd have, or I'm sorry, -4 in. Those are gone. It looks like I get 1. -4 comma 1 right there. And then I'd go ahead and plug in the -1 and I'd plug in the 0. And what you're going to get is -1 will spit out 4, 0 will spit out 1. And then you kind of draw this U shape. It's a flipped over U. I'm not very good at drawing these things, but the U is flipped over. The reason the U is flipped over is because that a value in front of the x squared is negative. That'll flip that over, by the way. But that's kind of what you want to do. We'll do another one of these, but then you want to go ahead and check it with your Desmos. So let's plug in -x squared minus 4x plus 1. Take a look, see if we graph this thing right. So f of x equals -x squared minus 4x. Was it plus 1, I believe? And then what we can do is, notice it gives us this vertex right here at -2, 5, which we had. There's the top of the graph. And then I'm going to click on the settings, make a table of values. And if you remember, I made -2, that was my vertex. I went to the left. So -3, -4, I could do a -5 as well. And then I went to the right of -2, so -1. 0, I plug that in. I could plug in one more, but anyways, you got a bunch of these points here. Here's all these points. I didn't do these ones, but you kind of get the picture. There, you got the nice flipped over U shape. Let's do a couple more here, and then we'll call it good. All right, this next one, I've got f of x. Notice it's not in standard form. I want to put the 2x squared first, then the minus 4x, then the minus 7. So it's in this form, ax squared plus bx plus c. A is 2, b is -4, c is -7. Because the first thing I want to do is I want to find the middle of the graph, which is called the axis of symmetry. And it's found by x being -b over 2a. So I go negative, my b here we said is -4 over 2 times a is 2. So it ends up being 4 over 4, which is 1. So that's the middle of my graph. If I was graphing this, x equals 1, that's the middle of my graph. And right now, and a is positive 2, so this is going to open up. I just don't know where it's going to open up at. but the middle of the graph is right there at x equaling 1. Okay, so when I plot my points, my vertex is right there at 1. So I want to go to the left of 1. So if x is 1 right there, pick an x of 0, pick an x of -1. Go to the left a couple, then go to the right of x being 2. Well, to the right would be a 2 and a 3. And then I'm plugging that in to my function 1 by 1. So let's plug the 1 in first. 1 squared is 1, so 2 times 1 is 2. 2 minus 4 minus 7, negative 2 minus 7, negative 9. So 1, negative 9. This is the bottom of my graph. Now I'm going to throw 0 in. So throw 0 in for x now. So I got 0 minus 7, I got negative 7. Now I'm going to throw negative 1 in. Negative 1 squared is 1. 2 times 1 is 2. 6 minus 7, negative 1. So let's graph those points. 0, negative 7 right there. Negative 1 is right there. So right now it's kind of coming down. Hits this. I would plug 2 in, and by the way, you'll get that. And 3 in, and you'll get the negative 1. So here, and you can kind of see that U shape right there. Again, let's go ahead and check that. 2x squared minus 4x minus 7. We'll go ahead and we'll throw that in decimals. Y equals 2x squared minus 4x minus 7. Let me kind of, oops. Move that around a little bit. Let's plot some points. I picked, my vertex was 1 right here, and so I'd go to the right a couple, and then the left of 1, 0, negative 1, negative 2, and so on. You can see all these points. So there's my vertex. Right to the right 1, to the left 1, to the right 2, to the left 2, and so on. And that was our graph. Alright, we got one more here. Let me erase this. Alright, our last one, f of x equals 1/2 x squared. Let me write the standard form below it. ax squared plus bx plus c. So c is 0. B is 0. It's like 0x, right? Alright, a is 1/2. So if you remember, when we're finding the axis of symmetry, the middle of the graph, it's x equals negative b over 2a. So x equals negative, well, b is 0. A is 1/2. Well, 0 over anything is 0. So this one goes right down the middle. The middle of the graph is the y-axis. And then 0 is where the vertex is. And then we'll go to the right a couple, go to the left a couple, and let's plug those points in. Plug the 0 in first. 0 times anything is 0. Now let's throw the 1 in. 1/2 times 1 squared. Well, 1 squared is 1. 1 times 1/2 is 1/2. Throw the 2 in. half of 4 is 2. Throw in the -1. Throw in the -2. And so you got these points 0, 0, 1. I'm only up halfway. 2, comma 2, and so on. And you kind of got this graph there, 1/2 x squared, and you could again check that with your Desmos. All right, thanks for watching. That should help you get started there.